Wisconsin is preparing to recount votes cast in the 2016 election. The move comes as Green Party presidential nominee Jill Stein has raised more than $5 million. That's right, $5 million to fund recounts in the key swing states of not just Wisconsin, but also Michigan and Pennsylvania, all of it which went to Donald Trump by a very slim margin. So what's really going on here? We have a member of the Green Party standing by, but first, the Washington bureau chief for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, Chris Gilbert, joins us on the phone. Chris, big news today out of your state, the day after Thanksgiving. What is happening on the ground, and what do we think is the objective of Jill Stein? Does she think that she can actually tilt the results in Wisconsin?
Well, she may think that. It does seem awfully improbable, given the margin right now is 22,177 votes, as counted by county and municipal clerks. That's a lot of votes to be overturned in a recount. There was a recount in a big statewide judicial election several years ago in Wisconsin, where about half as many people voted as did vote in this presidential election. And it only changed the final margin by about 300 votes. So, you can imagine recounts changing vote margins on the margins, but not a vote margin of 22,000 votes.
Right. So it sounds to me that the chances of her actually having an impact here might be slim to none. And I also understand, and please help us understand this tonight as we dig into this. On social media, a lot of people are sending out notes saying that Wisconsin state election laws suggest that you have to prove fraud for there to be any action here. Is that your understanding of the law? And since
no, I mean, my understanding of the law is that if the margin is ultra narrow of a quarter point or less, you can not only demand a recount, but it will be paid for by the taxpayers. But if it's a little bigger than that, if it's on, you can demand a recount, but then you have to pay for it. So the right to request a recount is there if you are going to pick up the tab for the recount. There's not a requirement of a finding for fraud. It's just what's different about this case is that the margin. I mean, this actually is only the third closest presidential race in Wisconsin in the last 5 elections. I mean, the 2000 and 2004 races where there were no recounts were actually closer than this one. So it's a big margin for a recount, but, they can ask for one. They can ask for one, but what is the real rationale? Were there serious and credible allegations of fraud? Were there problems that people were reporting to your newspaper on Election Day? Well, I haven't heard anything certainly on a scale that would account for the difference between the Trump vote and the Clinton vote. I mean, a few days ago you had a report of some people who had looked at the numbers in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and Michigan and thought they saw irregularities or irregular patterns in the vote. And what they apparently did was they looked at counties that had different voting systems and were suggesting that Hillary Clinton did worse in places where there was no paper trail on the balloting. But there's no real evidence for that. And it's also, one thing to keep in mind about the election system in Wisconsin, which is relevant to what I just said, and it's also relevant to a recount, is that it's unbelievably decentralized. I mean, you have more than 1,800 municipal clerks, and you have 70 county clerks. And these elections and these voting systems and a lot of decisions about elections are made not at the county level, but at the municipal level. So, when you're talking about, for example, touchscreen voting, that's all done not at the county level, but at the level of village and city and town. And so it would be even more hard to imagine someone kind of rigging that process when you're talking about the number of individual jurisdictions involved here. And it also means a recount is a painstaking process, too. Sure. Well, I got it. It certainly sounds like it's a long shot, to say the least. We appreciate your insight tonight, Craig Gilbert, joining us. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. One group pushing for the changes is the Green Rainbow Party of Massachusetts, the Massachusetts affiliate of the National Green Party. Ian Jackson is the treasurer of that group. He joins us now live via Skype. Ian, tell us what you think about the real goal here for Jill Stein.
the real goal is to find the truth, and everyone's had frustrations with computers before. So the idea is to use this at least as an audit of our electoral system. People have been slightly concerned about the trail, and as you last guest pointed out, it's very decentralized.
Mm-hmm. But when you say slightly concerned, that doesn't sound to me like there's widespread allegations or, more importantly, evidence of some sort of fraud. So is this giving Jill Stein supporters some sort of false hope?
Well, we're trying to find what the count is, and I'm not sure it's false hope. It's trying to find the truth behind the numbers. There's been these allegations by computer scientists, but as your last guest pointed out, it was using different systems and using that. Being engineers, I'm a software engineer, and we like our little models, but unless you actually count and check it, you don't know whether it's just a thought, well, they use something different.
Yeah.
Or if there's something to it. Well, and you mentioned that your show is all about finding truth.
All right, let's find that truth. And so my next question is, our last guest, who you cited several times, Craig Gilbert, also said accurately that in 2000 and 2004, the margin was even closer in the presidential race, and there was no recount. So what's your case tonight?
Well, the case tonight, you can see that there was a real contentious election, and based on that, there are people that have expressed concerns. So it's best to find the truth and go through the process. And obviously, people have been willing to put up millions of dollars to find out and count the ballots again.
Okay, so final question. If you really want to get at the truth, can we get at another truth, which is that it appears that Jill Stein has raised about $5 million for a recount that may or may not happen, for fraud that may or may not have happened. If there's nothing found here, and if there's not even a recount, will you pledge tonight that you and others in the Green Party believe that that money should be refunded, so this is not just money being raised on false hope?
Well, we're exploring that. I'm only treasurer for the Green Rainbow Party. We're certainly going, if it doesn't get used, we're certainly going to discuss with our donors what their desire is for that money.
Okay. Well, we appreciate your time tonight, Ian Jackson. We will certainly be searching for that truth as well.